Hey YouTube, Chicane here again. New video, new direction. I've been paying attention to what's been going on in the world lately between the US and China for about the past 6, 8 months, and I think everything's really coming to a head here. I think that we're going to see some clear indications of some turbulence between the two governments, and people will start to discuss the idea of military conflict between the two countries. In fact, the Chinese government has already released a press release, or one of their generals has released some information or a statement saying that they don't have the capability, the resources, or the manpower to fight the United States military, which I think is complete bullshit. And the reason I think it's bullshit is because this is an Asian society. I don't think their mindset's a little bit different. They're not braggadocious or trying to grandstand in front of anybody. What they have in mind is fulfilling their goals, however they have to do that. And if you read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, it basically says feigning weakness when you're strongest is a great military tactic, and this is what I think is exactly what's happening. Um, so let's go back and take a look at why some of the reasons why China would see the United States as a threat to its systems and its infrastructure and obviously its sovereignty. Um, the Chinese obviously have been blaming the United States for the recession back in 2008 and 2009. Well, the whole world blames the United States because it was the United States that created these banking regulations that allowed the criminal banksters from Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch and Bears and Stearns and all these companies basically rape the American public, destroy the economy, and having to end up to bail out some of the richest companies in the world, some of the richest CEOs in the world, and it was more or less the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time, and the American government more or less held their hand as they executed it. This was by design. It was not a fluke. It was not something that nobody was prepared for. It wasn't incompetence. This was by design. And if you think otherwise, then I really strongly encourage you to do your own research because there's tons of research to support that this was a scam. This was on purpose. This was intentional. This was by design. Look it up for yourself. So this impacted the Chinese government. This impacted their holdings. This impacted their economy. This impacted their population. And I could see them being quite upset with that. Um, and that's not good for the relations between the two countries. Is when they probably have intelligence sources from China telling the Chinese government that the American government and their little banking criminal cabal of Geithner and Paulson and all the others more or less kind of orchestrated this and did it by design. Because I think that's exactly what the Chinese intelligence community has told their government, is that this is the case, which is why things have started to um, kind of bubble up a little bit. Recently, there's been lots of talk about the Chinese yuan becoming the world reserve currency and replacing the dollar. I think there's a strong chance that this can happen. I think it will devastate the North American economy. Inflation will be incredible if this happens, but I see this, the United States would see this as a threat. They don't want this to happen. They want the world reserve currency. They have the power to print money, and this is their strength. This is what they want to be able to do. But I don't think it's going to last for much longer, and I think China is a threat to that. So the United States probably has an issue with that. Now, let's look at what they've been doing with other foreign governments and what they've been doing with their military. The Chinese and Mexican defense ministers hold talks on military cooperation. China and Mexico? Okay. Mexico is a southern border nation to the United States. The United States took most of California and Texas from the Mexican people back in the 1800s. So I don't see this being good for the United States people, the United States government long term. I don't see this being a good thing for them. This is actually quite this is actually quite threatening. Um, if they're looking for ways to cooperate, recently there was a story come out from a guy by the name of Steve Quayle, who's a patriotic Christian who has a radio show. He had a caller call in, say that he was physically inside Mexico doing a food delivery to an unknown address and an unknown recipient. And when he reached the checkpoint of where he was supposed to go, he was met by Mexican federales, and the federales took him farther down into Mexico, where he was more or less pulled into, uh, a hidden base, hidden into military facility. And when he went in, he said he saw hundreds and thousands of Chinese troops and tens of thousands of military vehicles, and that Chinese troops were the ones offloading his cargo. So I think that this is more than plausible. This could definitely be the case. There could be Chinese troops inside Mexico right now. And if they were going to attack the United States, that would probably be the best place to do it. After forming this relationship with Mexico, Mexico would have nothing to lose by allowing them to be there, and they're probably paying them a ton of money. And Mexico needs money, let's face it. They need wealth, they need money, they need oil, they need natural resources. So I can see this happening. Now, without a doubt in my mind, I can see this happening. Recently, there was the story about the Chinese sub that stalked the U.S. fleet inside the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Japan. There was a carrier group running exercises, and a military sub, a Chinese military submarine, creeped up behind one of these carriers and basically was in within torpedo range, according to the intelligence reports. Now, this is kind of freaky because it just seems like China's trying to send a message to the United States government saying, if we want to get close to you guys, we can get close to you guys. And I'm sure you've all heard the stories about, I'm not going to get into it, but the Chinese government having a sub off the coast of California and firing a ballistic missile, and potentially hitting a satellite or something like that. I don't know what the case is with that. I haven't seen anything pressed to support that, so I'm not going to talk about it. But again, a rumor. The whole thing with Steve Quayle is also a rumor. There's no hard evidence to support this, but it's something to make you say, you know what I mean? It's not something to ignore. I'm a critical thinker. I take all the evidence that's presented to me and I make up my own opinion. So, and then recently, the whole Osama bin Laden thing. We got to look at that and take that very seriously because Chinese government has come forward and said that if the U.S. uses the Osama bin Laden, um, the fact that he was hiding in Pakistan and they tried to, you know, more or less materialize this into some idea that the Pakistani government was harboring Osama bin Laden so they can do the same thing they did in Iraq and bring in military forces into Pakistan. China is saying that they would see it as a threat against Beijing and a threat against China, and that there would be consequences. Um, I think that this is the time to start taking this very seriously. I think that China poses a major threat to the United States, and unfortunately Canada by relation. And I think what we need to do is we need to be vocal with our governments, tell them that we know what they're doing, and ask them to change their foreign policies and get these criminal banksters and criminal globalists out of our government offices and get back to using our constitutions and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and our Bill of Rights, and we need to get back to those times. But anyways, your thoughts on China? I would love to hear them. Drop them down. Let's see what everybody has to say.